Hey, we're back at this tutorial video. We're actually almost done here with the functionality to get this snake game going. However, we've gotten to the point where things just have to change a little bit because the current implementation is not going to work for us to be able to add what we can call a body to the snake. So there's a few things that I need to change. Clearly, you can see I'm not great at this game, but okay. We're good. So I guess as far as getting a program that works, we're very close. If we want to add additional things, we can do that as we move ahead. But we're getting there. We're getting very close. I'm noticing, however, that every time I eat the snake, the square kind of shows up on top for a minute. I think what I want to do is I want to maybe draw the snake after I draw the snack. So I'm going to actually just take this and I'm going to move it after the snack is drawn. And that's just like, I mean, you can barely notice that, but I think I'm taking a look and it looks like it's showing up there. Let me just run it one more time. Yeah, that's much better. I mean, it's almost not um, visible, but okay. Okay, so right now our current implementation to move the snake is that if we're moving to the right, we want to increment x by 10. Remember, our step is 10. If we're moving to the left, we want to decrease x. Notice we're subtracting by 10. If we're moving up, because up is going to decrease our y coordinate, and we want to decrease. This is kind of inverted of the opposite of what you would think. Going down, increase y by 10. Now, this implementation is not going to work, or I guess maybe we could make it work, but it would be a lot more challenging to make it work when we want to actually increase the length of the body. And so I'm going to make a few changes here. I'm going to talk about these changes as I'm doing these. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make X and Y, I'm going to make them arrays. So we've seen arrays. Now the first number in my array will always be the head of the snake. Now, what I'm going to do here, let me place a comment here because I don't want to erase that. It's something like this where I'm going to say the first element here is 350, half of the width, that's for x. And then the next one would be 200, half of the height. Now it is actually what I have commented out. Those values are what I just wrote in here, but I want to basically try to help you understand what's going to happen here. So let's say that the body is 350. Excuse me, the head of the snake is at 350, 200. And then the body could be, if I'm moving to the right, then the body would be trailing and it would be 340. The next square would be 340. That's 10 to the left because I'm moving to the right. And then this should be still 200 because they'll have the same y coordinate. This will make two squares that are basically next to each other. Actually, if I run it, it's going to be a little odd. Well, now I'm going to get an error because I've made this an array. But basically, what you need to think of is the fact that we're going to make arrays for the x and y coordinates to hold the x coordinate not only of the head of the snake, this would be x and y coordinate of the head, but also the x and y coordinates for every square that is to represent the body of the snake. So that's what I'm trying to get across. Now 200 happens to be this right here. So I'm going to cut this from here and paste it here. I'm also going to cut this from here. That's 350, half of the width. So I'm going to paste it here. So I've basically initialized x and y to be an array now, not just a variable. And we've worked with arrays. So again, I want to keep track of the x and y coordinates of every part of the snake, head and body. Now, making that change gives me errors now because things have changed, right? There are things that have changed here. For example, now if I want to check if the snake collided with the snack, well, the snake, the x coordinate now has multiple values. So right here, I would have to actually put 0. That's because x of 0 is the first element, which represents the head of the snake. and then 0 here for y, because y is of 0 represents the first element, which is again the coordinates of the head of the snake rather than the body. So I need to make that change there. Now all of this is going to have to change, and I'm gonna do my best here to explain how we're going to change all this. And then as well, when we draw the snake here, right here, now we need to do it for every x and y coordinate in the array. So we need to repeat this process, which means that we need a for loop here. We actually need a for loop. We're going to say here that for I'm going to just call it I in range. This makes the index values. So I'll make here the length of self.x. I could put self.y and it would still work because they have the same length. They're going to end up having the same length. Now, okay, so the length of this tells me how many squares the snake has, how many elements there are in X. Remember, every element is the coordinate, X coordinate of the head and the body. So this will give me the number of elements. Range basically makes a list of those numbers, so to speak, starting at 0. And I will be 0, and then I will be 1, and then I will be 2. And now I will be every number up to the length of the snake. So if the snake has 3 squares, this would be 3. Oh, I accidentally moved it. No, this would be 3. And then the range of 3 is the numbers 0, 1, and 2. I think I may be able to, I don't think it shows up here, but it doesn't show me the list. But let me see if I can print this and if it makes a difference. It basically just makes the numbers 0, 1, and 2. And so I will be 0, then I will be 1, and then I will be 2. And how does that play into this? Well, now, let me actually increase the indentation here. Now, instead of doing self.x, I'm going to do self.x of I, where again, I is 0, and then I is 1, then I is 2. And I'm going to do self.y of I as well. And so we're iterating, we're traversing here the array, the X array and the Y array, which hold the coordinates for the body. Now I'm gonna actually comment this out right now because this has to change entirely. So I don't want it to give me errors. I want to see if this is just gonna work right now for a minute without giving me errors. So I'm gonna comment to move snake, and I'm gonna just play it. I don't get any errors, which is a good thing, meaning the changes that I've made are good. So notice that when we comment move snake, we don't run any of this code. And this code was in charge of basically updating X and Y. Okay, now so this change is good. And then I've come in here again and put here X of 0 and Y of 0, which are the first coordinates in the array, which represent the head of the snake. And now we need to work on this. Move snake. This needs to get quite a lot of well, we basically have to do I can't come up with the word. We have to replace most of this. That's the word. Now, let me first start by trying to help you see what we need to do, because when we move the snake, now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing this. Let's say we're moving to the right, like we are here, which means that this would be x1, y1, and then x2, y2. What we're going to do here when we move, and we're just considering a single square. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna basically in our array of x and y, where right now it only has the number 350 and 200. And if I want to move this to the right, I want to increase 350 by, remember that our step, how much we're moving is 10. So I want to make this equal to 360. And if I'm just moving to the right, I want to keep y at 200. That's the difference. This is 350, 200, and this is 360, 200. So basically what we do when we move to the right, let me just kind of get rid of some of this, is we want to change my array. Now we're going to do this by doing the following. We're going to basically insert 360. So this is basically the process that we're going to do. To get this to go to this, let me give myself some space here. I'm going to insert 360 in front of 350. So that's what x is going to be. And then I'm going to basically get rid of that. So it's two steps. Insert, and we call this pop. Pop, it means remove the last element in the array. So insert and pop. Notice that for y, I can insert 200, and I already have a 200, and then pop. So insert and pop. Now, if I'm moving to the left, well then this would be x1, y1, and this would be x2, y2. And again, if this is the where I start at 350, 200, this would be now 340 because I went to the left, 10 pixels to the left, 200. And so again, the process is similar here, where I want to make my array here, which right now has the number 350. I want it to have the number 340 because I'm going to move 10 squares to the left. And the y will stay the same here when I'm moving to the left. And so again, the step is the same. We say to make this list equal that, we're going to first insert 340 in front of 350. And then we're going to pop this, remove it. Insert and pop. And I'm looking here actually, and it's possible that I don't have to make a change to this. It's very likely that I don't. Meaning, if this stays the same, I don't have to do insert 200 in front and then pop the 200 at the end. So I think we might be able to get away without having to do that. I'll just kind of briefly go over the other ones just so we can see here. When I'm moving up, this is x1, y1, and then this is x2, y2. x1 is, again, 350. 350. Y1 is 200. And now going up, 350 stays the same. I go up to 190, right? So I subtracted 10 from y. And so I want my x vector, or my x array to go from 350 to 350. So it will stay the same. And I want y to go from 200 when I'm going up 10 pixels to 190. And so again, the x stays the same, so I think there won't be a need to change that. How do I make this equal that? Well, first I will insert 190 in front, and I will then pop the 200, which means remove from the end. And then finally, we have, when we're moving downward, this is x1, y1, and this is x2, y2. And if this is 350, 200, this is 350, 210. I add 10 pixels going downward. So again, x will be the same. It won't change. Now, all this has to happen now because we've changed how we're going to store these x coordinates for the entire body of the snake, not just the head of the snake. And this is how we're going to approach this so as to make the snake bigger. We'll talk about that maybe in this lecture or in the following lecture. So I want to go from 200 and move 10 pixels downwards, so that would increase to 210. And again, the way we do this for Y is we're going to insert 210 at the very front, and then that would make it so that we now have two elements, because the 200 is still there. And then so we insert 210 in front, and then we're going to pop this, which means remove it. So this is a visual to kind of help you understand what I'm doing here with the code. Now let me actually implement this. I want to get the snake to be able to move like it used to move. So first thing here, I'm going to make a variable, a local variable, meaning a variable that I am only going to use inside move snake. I'll call head x, and that's self, and that's the first element in the x array, and head y is the first element in the y array. Notice we're using arrays, okay? So at this point, hopefully you're more comfortable with arrays. And then I'm going to say that self x, the way we can add an element at the beginning of an array is we use this, what we call insert. So self x is an array that has more than one value. We want to insert at 0, which means at the very front. We want to insert, well, when I move to the right, remember, let's go back to this. When I move to the right, to x, I want to insert 360. So that's 10 more than the current value, than the head, than 350. So I'm going to actually put here to head x, which is 350, I'm going to add the step plus 10. And then after that, well, actually, I'll do that step at the end here. Nope. Let me try it here. I'm going to do self.x.pop. It removes the previous element. Notice that where before x had a 350, now it will have 360. This adds a 360, so this is the equivalent of putting 360 here as the first element. And 350 that was already there. I'm just going to put it here as a comment. And I'm hard coding the numbers so that it makes more sense. So this adds a 360 at the very beginning, and then pop removes the 350. It just removes it. It's gone. So now we only have 360. So basically we've updated our x. In the opposite direction, we're actually going to do very much the same thing. I'm actually not going to make any changes to y, because notice that when we're moving sideways, left or right, y stays the same. The x coordinate does not increase or decrease. So 200 to 200, 200 to 200. So I'm actually going to copy this, and I'm going to say that if I'm moving to the left, I'm going to insert, that would be head x, that's 350 minus 10, because I want to move to the left. So this would be then insert a 340 in front. And then I popped, so I remove the 350 there at the end. I'm only adding the comments to kind of help you see this. So this should be able to let us move sideways, left and right. Now for y, I'm going to do something similar, but now I'm going to use y instead. I'm going to insert at the very beginning, at the 0th element, I'm going to insert head y. Remember, if I'm going up, I'm going to decrease the y coordinate, so self minus step, or head y minus step. So what does this do? If I have 200 in y, I'm going to add 200 minus 10, I'm going to add a 190. And so now I have 190 and 200. And then I'm going to pop the 200, which means remove it. This removes the 200. This is only taking care of motion. We're not adding anything to we're not adding a body to the snake just yet. And going downward, it's going to be similar here, where I'm going to actually just copy and paste, but now this is going to be plus, so that would be 200 plus 10. So I would insert 210 there at the beginning, and then I would remove the 200. So this should work. Let's try it out. I'm going to uncomment to this so we can run the code in there, and let's try it. It didn't work, so let me just take a quick look. So index out of range, that means that this is not quite working here. Oh, okay. We're popping. Oh, that's because I didn't change this to Y. Y, pop from Y, and Y. It works. Notice how I can move now. The implementation is a little different. So now we're dealing with arrays when for the X and Y coordinates of the head of the snake and the body. You can see here that I'm not good at this game. There we go. But it's working. It's working just like it was before. And now this is even more important that we have this working because now we can add a body. We're going to look at how we're going to add a body. Okay, to add a body, we're going to basically go in here where we detect a collision. If the head of the snake, that's the 0th element, is at the same location as the snack, that means that this is basically a small number. They both have the same x coordinate. If you subtract the x coordinate from each other, you get close to 0. Then we want to add to the body. We want to add, at the very end, we want to add something. So now here, we're going to do a few things. As a matter of fact, you know what? I think I'm going to leave that to the next tutorial video. I wanted to finish this up, but if it gets lengthy, it's a little hard to stick around here. So get this working. If you have questions, let me know. At this point, again, we have functionality that is working here as far as moving the snake and eating the snack, having the snack show up at a different location. And now we've made it such that we can add a body here without a whole lot of trouble. Just a few things that we want to identify. Okay, there we go. So I'll do this in the next tutorial video. And I believe at that point, we probably should have something that is working. Maybe not exactly where we want it to be, but it's definitely going to be working.